Welcome back to He's House, where we do a little bit of everything all the time, and it usually turns out right. My kids requested pizza and hamburgers for dinner tonight, so I pulled some meat out of the freezer. I'm going to smoke those burgers here in a little bit, but first step, I got to make some buns. These are sourdough hamburger buns. I've made these quite often for different things. Takes 340 grams of starter. I'm making a double batch. We got some friends that are going to come over as well when they found out we were doing burgers. So this batch here will make 12 buns. And I've got 3 pounds of meat on, so that's 12 burgers. First, we're going to combine the starter, a little bit of yeast, and the water. This is 340 grams of water, so equal parts water to starter. I'm just going to stir this now, and we want to get this incorporated pretty well. And that's 2 teaspoons of yeast. If I make this earlier in the day and my starter is going really well and I have all day, I typically don't add the yeast, but it takes like 6 to 8 hours with just the sourdough starter. And dinner is in about 3 hours, so I've got to speed up this process a little bit. All right, that's incorporated pretty well. All right, so now we have 480 grams of flour topped with 56 grams of whole wheat flour. I don't have potato flour, but potato starch is similar, so I'm lowering it down. It's supposed to be 50 grams of potato flour, but I'm doing 38 grams of potato starch, and then I've topped it off with 12 grams of flour. So we get the same volume, but we don't need that much starch. And then this is dry milk. We're putting in 28 grams. And then there's 18 grams of salt and 13 grams of sugar. And actually, I just realized I forgot to double that one, so I need to add an extra 13 grams. This calls for just regular white table sugar. I love brown sugar. You'll notice that in most of the things I make, I use brown sugar. So we now have 26 grams of brown sugar, which we were supposed to have. So I'm going to mix this together real quick, and then we're going to dump it into the starter. So we want to ensure this is all incorporated really well before we mix it in. We're going to start this off with the paddle attachment. Dump all this in. Guess I gotta plug it in. All right, let's try that again. So now that it's plugged in, I'm gonna put this on the paddle attachment and just do it for about 2 minutes. We want to turn this into a sticky mess before we put the dough hook in. This is a pretty gooey mess. So now we put the dough hook on. Now that we got that scraped off, we got to scrape these sides down all the way really well. And now we're going to put it back on with the dough hook. Pop that up. And now as it's mixing, we're going to add 8 tablespoons of butter. And this needs to be softened butter. Not like soft, you don't want it melted, but you don't want it hard either. If your house is like 70 degrees, your butter's probably soft enough. Ours is a little bit colder, so I just set it in the sun for a little bit. Now I'm gonna let that get incorporated for a second. All right, well that's mixing up. I'm gonna grease the pan. We're gonna mix this now with the dough hook for about 8 to 12 minutes. And I gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of KitchenAid mixers when it comes to dough. I'm really considering getting a dough mixer because these things just do not get the dough. This thing's set right, it's got the right tolerances, but it just doesn't do dough very well. So I tend to have to do this step repeatedly instead of just mixing it. That's why I do most of my doughs by hand on the counter, but this one's a bit sticky. And I don't want to add any extra flour to it. This is probably where we need to be. It's been about 12 minutes. I'm gonna actually use my butter wrapper. Grease this bowl. Get the majority of it with this. And scrape the rest of this. I had to switch scrapers. That one was not flexible enough for this bowl. So this one is pretty flexible, and it's still got a tough edge, so it cleans everything out. So here's what the dough looks like right now. If we were doing straight sourdough with no yeast, this would sit for 4 hours. Once an hour I would turn it, so 4 times I would turn it in that 4 hours, and then we'd put it in the hamburger pans. But since I'm doing yeast, I'm only doing this for 90 minutes. So I'm going to turn it 3 times, once every 30 minutes. So we'll check back in and check out the folds. See you soon. All right, time for fold number 1. This is going to be sticky. It'll get less sticky as we go along. All right, come back in a half hour. It's been an hour, so time for fold number 2. Getting a little bit better now. Should be pretty good after that next one. All right, we'll check back in 30 minutes. Welcome back now. It's been 90 minutes. It's got a nice little rise to it. We're gonna fold it a little bit more. Take that off. Oh yeah, it's getting pretty good now. Now we're going to divide it up. Fold it one more time. All right, so now we're going to divide it up into 12 balls. Each about 120 grams. Set these aside for now. And once we got them all done, I'll put them in the pan. We got our 12 balls. Now I'm just going to roll these up a little bit. And put them in these pans. All right, we got all 12 buns. Now we're going to press them down. If you don't have one of these pans, it's totally fine. I made them for quite a while without using one of these, but I make them so much, I ended up getting a couple of these. Now they sit for 90 minutes, and then we'll throw them in the oven. These didn't quite rise as much as I wanted. It's a bit cold, but they should still pop in the oven. This is an egg yolk wash. All right, well, the buns are out of the oven. I made some homemade Smashburgers with homegrown beef. These things came out delicious. Most of them are already gone, unfortunately. I had to sneak away from the kitchen so I could get a picture of this. So, thanks for stopping into He's House, where the food is always fresh and the back deck is always open. And the burger buns are on point. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.